Hello guys, welcome back to Checkmate City. Today we are going to see the next variation in the Coruscant defense. So by wasting the time, we just get into the opening, right? We all know that white start with e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3, d4, knight e4, bishop f5, knight g3, bishop g6. So in the previous variations we see that knight f3, knight e2. Today we are going to see the next variation, which is bishop c4. Right, bishop c4 was played to develop his bishop to the light square. Right, we develop the pieces, right? We can develop to knight f6 or knight bd7, or we can play e6. So here black play the move e6. So white continue with his development. He can play knight f3 also, but here he plays knight e2. Black continue with knight f6, castles, knight b d7, f4. Here he brings his pawn to f4. He is in the time to attack, right? He thinks that he is going to attack the black's king side, so he plays the move f4, right? Here black replay with knight b6, bishop d3, bd3, queen d3, g6. Yeah, here you need to think, right? Here the opening ends and the middle game starts. See, right here black tries to exchange his g6 bishop with the d3 bishop and have a plan to play g6 and bishop g7. He is not interested to keep the bishop on d6 always, right? In every variation in Coruscant we see that this bishop belongs to d6 square, right? This bishop belongs to d6 square. He goes here and there with the support of her queen. They attack both f4, right? This is the plan in every variation. So in this variation he changes the plan, right? The bishop changes the plan. For fun we can tell that queen d3, g6, right? Here white play the move b3. He wants to put his bishop on b2, so black first play the move knight b d5. Like he centralizes his knight, and which covers the weak squares, right? e3, c3. He can play knight b4 also, so these weak squares are just occupied by the knight. And here you need to note one thing, right? This knight can also be played here, but it's not a great move because after c4 he has to go back to here, or he has to go back to f6, right? This is a waste move, so that he plays the move knight b d5. If f4 was played now, he play the move knight e7 and he can go back to knight f5. So here's the thing, he brings his knight, centralizes it, and bringing back to e7 and bringing and going to f5, right? This is a small tactics, right? And bishop b2, bishop g7, rook a d1, castles, right? They both castles, and here the intense positions is going to start, right? Knight c3, developing his knight, queen a5, a3, because he needs to move his knight to e4, and which cannot be support to a2, right? So he play the move a3, rook d8, b4, attacking the queen, queen c7, queen f3, rook d7, rook d2, right? Here both of them are going to double the rooks on the d file, right? They both have the plan, so they execute it, right? Rook d8, rook d1, right? Knight c8. Yeah, here's a key thing, he wants to activate this knight. He can't go to g8 or g6, right? These two squares are occupied by the pieces, right? He can't go to f5, because if knight f5, then simply knight f5, f5, which is a great position also for black according to engine, but as a human you think that this structure is solid, pretty solid, but this doubled pawn is slightly a disadvantage. As a human we think, but knight f5 was not the great, right? Here he wants to activate this knight, so he can't go to d5. So he thinks he need to go to c8, then d6, right? He want to place his knight here, right? If the knight is placed here, if c5 was played, then knight to b5 will be played, so this square will be free, then this knight can occupy d5. So there are the strategies behind the simple move knight c8, right? These are the many things you need to note it before touching a piece or moving a piece, right? Knight c e4, he thinks you need to exchange, so they exchange. Yeah, and knight d6 was played, right? Here white exchanges the knights, so it's a solid position for both of them, right? But according to engine it's a slightly 0.7 plus for black. Because do you think why? Because of the solid structure, right? Solid pawn structure, and white has a more space advantage, but he pushes the pawn too further, right? These three things, right, are somewhat slightly weak, and c4 is completely weak. If black can play queen to a6, then attacks the c4, he will play c5 and d5 will become a weak squares, right? d5 and b5. So there are some weaknesses for white like c4, and they do not have any ideas to continue. If d5, then they both exchanges everything, right? A rook can't take the d5 because it has a support, so they can't move the d5 move because of the diagonal pin of b2 bishop. So the things work out for white is slightly less rather than black. But white also has so many ideas, like he can play the bishop to c3 and then he can play d5 with the support of the queen to c3, right? So he can play the d5 after bishop c3. There are things how he can play like queen e3, right? Or you can play like h4 h5. So there are things for white also, but it's a pretty solid for black. So as a Corcoran player, as a black, we need to think that we have a solid position rather than the white things, right? So we have great position in this variation, so study this variation, understand it, and execute in the tournament and learn from it. So don't think to win at the first go, just learn day by day, year by year, and you will master it. So subscribe Checkmate City for more videos.